All right, welcome back. Welcome to the long-awaited return of my age plus my value of my stock portfolio worth. It's been 4 years, 2025. I'm 2020. I'm 22 now. Yeah. So obviously, as you can see, my last video it was worth about 34,000. Now I'm down to around 15,000. And I'm going to go over basically why there was such a large change and go over all of that. But just to start, I'm going to start with the holdings I have now. So you can see things look pretty significantly different. Before I was just basically in the stock market. Now you can see we've got crypto, we've got precious metals, bonds, and the stock market. So yeah, it's significantly different, the holdings that I have now. And I'll go through those and explain those. So Ethereum, I bought this about a month ago now, a little over a month ago. I bought Ethereum when it was at, I think, 2,500 and 2,700. It is now at around 3,600, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know what that translates to for the ETF, but you can see I'm up about 34%. So yeah, I've done pretty good on this considering that I've only owned it a month. I plan on selling it pretty soon. I'm kind of waiting for Ethereum to go to 4,000 or 4,500. I feel like that's a pretty reasonable price target, and I feel like that's a time where I can get out, and I'm definitely not going to be taking on a whole lot of risk. I'm not going to be playing it too aggressive. But again, it's just $4,000. It's an amount of money that I am comfortable losing. So it is what it is. I don't really see this as a long-term holding. This is kind of just something that I have in the moment. And if it goes up enough in value, I'll sell it. Or if the stock market goes down and I feel like I'd rather just put it into there, then that's what I'll do. So not really a long-term holding, just something that I saw the price of Ethereum. I felt like it was a little bit low, and I feel like it's still going to go up just a little bit more. And when it does, I'll probably sell it. And onto the SGov, that is 3-month treasury bonds. So instead of keeping my money in cash, I keep it in these treasury bonds now. Just the 3-month ones. They're paying, I think, around 4%. So that's about what you'd get with just like a high interest savings account. So this is basically my high interest savings account. That's not necessarily an investment. Like I'll probably, I might use this for personal expenses, and if not, I'm just going to invest it into the stock market. Now you can see I also have silver. So silver, for me, the way I look at silver, I look at it as being kind of similar to the SGov that I have, except if you've been following the news, if you've been keeping up with that, the US dollar is kind of struggling right now, and there's just a lot going on. There's a lot of reasons that maybe the US dollar could continue to maybe go down. And of course, money is always being printed, so it's not a great idea to have all your money in cash or in bonds. And I feel like silver is a way where I can have my money not invested in real estate or the stock market or crypto, and have it kind of hold its money or hold its value. Silver has been used for a long time. So that's kind of how I look at silver. It's sort of like, instead of me putting my money into bonds, I can just put it into silver and save in silver instead of saving in cash or in a high interest savings account. So if the stock market were to dip and silver is still at a good price, I'd probably sell my silver and put it into the stock market, or I'd use my silver to probably invest in real estate or make some type of investment with it. I'm not really looking at silver as a long-term holding either. And then onto VOO. Of course, I've had this for a long time. In all of my videos, I've held VOO. This is just the S&P 500. I want to hold this long-term in the stock market. Just let it compound. And yeah, those are my holdings right now. So the big question is probably, how did I go from 34,000 to 15,000? Well, it wasn't because I bought a new car. It wasn't because I was gambling in crypto or options and I lost it. I invested it into rental properties. So I'll get into that in a minute. And I'll probably just start kind of going back to where I was in the last video. So that was in March of 2021. So in that video, I was kind of talking about how I was still in school, still working at Subway, but I was interested in starting a business, getting my shit together, and making more money so I could invest more. So I had 2 YouTube channels that I tried to start. They were not successful. And my next business idea was essentially to start a meal prep service. So I don't know, you've probably seen those things online, like Factor. I know they sponsor YouTubers and people like that. So that was kind of my goal, is to start my own meal prep service. But I also did not really want to stay in the small town that I was in anymore. I was kind of looking to move at this point. So what happened is, over the next 3 months, I'd kind of finished up with school. I think in that video I even said that I hadn't logged into my class for a long time, and there was like a week left. And yeah, that was true. I got in trouble. I did not do my class, so they put me on a different program where I could just do it at my own pace. And I was like, you know what, let me just get this done. I finished my class up. And I basically did everything that I needed to finish high school in about May of 2021. So the stock market, it continued to go up in that time in 2021. I think 2021 was a good year for the stock market. I think pretty much all year it was just on an upswing. So yeah, I continued to invest. I finished school, continued to work at Subway, and towards the end of high school, my portfolio was worth, I think, around $50,000. So I was kind of going back and forth about what I was going to do after high school, but the plan that I came to is I was going to move to Houston, Texas from Oregon, and I was going to become a bartender, because you can bartend at 18 in Texas. So that was the plan. After I'd kind of failed those YouTube channels, that was the plan, is move to Texas, become a bartender, bartend on the weekends, and use that money to basically put it into a business, and hopefully that business will make a lot of money in the future. Now, I pretty much, on the night, so I graduated, the next day we had prom. The night of prom, I think my homie was staying the night at my house, and I literally texted my manager that night, putting in my 2 weeks at Subway. So I had graduated at this point, and then I had 2 weeks left of work. So I pretty much just packed up all my stuff, my computer, my clothes, everything like that, and I put it into a duffel bag. I got on a one-way flight to Houston, and I moved to Houston. I was staying in an Airbnb, so I think that was costing me around $700 a month. So I was I'd signed up for DoorDash while I was still in Oregon, and then I'd done a few jobs just to kind of get the idea of DoorDash, and I was like, okay, I can do DoorDash while I'm in the bartending school, and I'm just gonna make this work. I told my parents that I was only going there for the summer, just in case things didn't work out and I needed to move back. But I got to Houston. I think it took me 2 weeks to start the bartending school, so I was able to get a car, start doing DoorDash, bounced around to a few different Airbnbs, but I finally kind of got settled into one, and I was paying, I think, around $700 a month in rent, just buying groceries, and I was just kind of living life as an adult for the first time, which was pretty cool. And I went through the bartending school. I got a job, and this job, it was a weird place. It was like a coffee shop and a bar. So I don't know shit about coffee. I don't know about frappuccinos, cappuccinos. I don't know the difference. So I was in this job. I just went through all this training to become a bartender, and now I also need to learn how to become a barista as well, essentially. And I was not very successful with that. I got fired, but they didn't tell me I was fired. They just took me off the schedule, and I called about it, and they're like, yeah, you don't have what it takes. So I was like, okay, cool. I've been in Houston for a little while now. We're getting a good, probably more than halfway through the summer, and I don't really have a job bartending. Like, I wasn't really sure if it was going to work out. Like, maybe I did need to consider that I might have to move back home, go to college, and do all that. But after I got fired from there, I went on Indeed. I just started applying to any places that were hiring bartenders. The place that I went to wasn't an actual bar. It was more so a restaurant. So I applied that day in person. They interviewed me on the spot, and then they hired me a few hours later. And this ended up being a good job. I was making like $1,300 a week at this job, which as an 18-year-old, like, that's a lot of fucking money. So I was doing good at this job. And it seemed like everything was kind of working out. I even moved out of the Airbnb, and I was basically a roommate with someone in an apartment. So the Airbnb I was staying at, they literally had like 7 people living in there. It was like a 4-bedroom house, and then they converted the dining room into a bedroom, and then they converted the garage into 2 bedrooms, essentially. So there were like 7 people in just like a regular sized house, and I was paying $750 a month. So it wasn't the best deal, but it was good, like, short-term housing. And then once I got into that roommate situation, there's a lot that goes into that. It was kind of miserable for the first few months because I was paying basically $300 a month just to sleep on his floor, because there was another roommate in there living there at the time. That guy moved out. I moved into his room. But yeah, for a while I was paying $300 a month in rent, but yeah, I was sleeping on the floor. So not the best living situation, but of course during this time I was able to save and invest a lot of money because I didn't have a whole lot of expenses and I was making a good bit of money. So I was able to, through this time, consistently invest about $2,500 a month in the stock market, which was a big improvement from, I think, before I was getting $500 every 2 weeks. So I was investing around $1,000 a month in the stock market, maybe $900 a month when I was working at Subway. So obviously this is a big improvement. So my income was higher. I was able to invest a lot more. So I took that portfolio from, I think it was around like $55,000. I had spent some money when I was first living there, but I started to kind of recover that money that I had spent once I got into this new job. So I was working that job for a little while, and I'd went back home in, I think, March or something, and my aunt, she had basically mentioned that she lives like very close to a tourist town, like 20 minutes away, and I could go and live with her and make a whole lot of money during basically the summer of 2022. So I thought that was a pretty good idea because I was looking to actually leave that job that I was in and maybe go to a gay bar, because that's where the money's at, to be honest. If you're a male bartending, it is what it is. You're going to make the most money at a gay bar. It is what it is. So that's kind of where I was looking to go, because that's where the money was at. But my aunt, she had given me basically this opportunity where I can live rent-free with her and make a whole lot of money in this tourist town. So I thought that sounded like a good idea. Around this time in 2022, before I left Houston, I think my net worth, or my stock market portfolio, was still around $55,000. And a lot of that is because the stock market was struggling in 2022. So I was basically just putting money in, but of course it was losing value because the stock market was going down. So I think my stock market portfolio was about the same at this time. And one thing I forgot to mention in the last video, I mentioned that I had some crypto. I had sold that before I moved. Now, before I moved to Michigan in 2022, I had amassed a good amount of money. You know, I had around $55,000, like I said, and I was interested in maybe making an investment in a rental property. Okay, so my mom was a realtor at this time, so she wanted me to basically give her a referral. Like, I would find a real estate agent, and then she gets a referral. She gets a check from basically the property that I buy, because she referred me to the real estate agent. So I was going through that. I think I met a real estate agent. She did not accept referrals. so I wasn't going to be able to use her. But my mom at this time had actually found a property she was interested in investing in. Now, my mom had just started becoming a real estate agent, so she didn't really have a long track record of her having a high income, because before she was just at a job where she was making like 15 an hour. Like, she was basically making the same money as me when I was working at Subway. So it was hard for her to get approved for a mortgage. So basically what we did is we pooled our money together. We went half and half on this rental property, and we bought it. We bought a rental property. So at that point, I had to basically sell all of my stocks, all of everything that I had to buy this rental property in 2022. Now, I'll talk about it later, but I think I put around $60,000 down into this property, and it's appreciated since then. I know that the total equity I have in both rental properties is around $160,000. I don't know exactly how that breaks down, but I know that I put down around $60,000 to buy that one, and the other one I put down around $80,000 to buy it, and with appreciation I've gained about $20,000. So that's how I got the $160,000 worth of equity in there. And then of course I have this stock market portfolio. So my net worth's around $175,000 today, but back then it was worth about $55,000, or well, actually $60,000, because I put that whole $60,000 into that rental property. So at this point, I'm in Houston. I've put my 2 weeks in to leave my job. I was able, for a while, I was putting about $2,500 into the stock market every month. But of course the stock market was going down. And also when I was there for the first little while, during training, everything like that, I was just losing money because, I was doing DoorDash, but I wasn't really working like that on DoorDash. I was mainly trying to focus on getting my life together and getting into a good living situation and getting a good job. So I achieved all those things, and then I felt like I had a better opportunity in Michigan. So I got in my Honda, my like $1,700 Honda. That it was a beater, and I drove that from Houston to Michigan. So got to Michigan, started working up there, and I very soon realized that I was not going to be making the money that I was told. I was thinking that I was going to make around $60,000 that summer. I didn't. I was making significantly less than that. To make a long story short, the first few months it was slow, and I was making less than I was in Houston, and then over time it got busier, and I was making about the same as I was in Houston, but I didn't have to pay rent. So during this time in 2022, if you remember, crypto was at a very, very low point. The stock market was low, but crypto was really low. So I was able to buy Ethereum and Bitcoin at a really good price in 2022 because I didn't have any expenses. I had money coming in, and the assets were relatively cheap, like the stock market and crypto. It was relatively inexpensive. So I was able to load up on crypto and VOO during this time. Of course I didn't have anything. I was going into it with nothing because I sold everything to buy this rental property. So I had that rental property. Things were going okay. There were some like turnover costs, so there was some money that I had to put into it. But pretty quickly, the rental property was kind of paying for itself. Like the amount of cash flow that we were getting after we paid our mortgage, property taxes, insurance, it was basically enough to pay for the maintenance, turnover costs, vacancies, all that stuff. So I wasn't losing a lot of money on that rental property. I wasn't having to put in a lot of money to keep it going. So I was able to invest a lot. I don't know exactly what my net worth was by the end of that summer, and I didn't stay all summer. I think I left in like August to move back to Houston essentially. So yeah, I was in Michigan. It was nice spending time with family. It was nice having a little bit of a change of pace. And then my best friend, he'd actually, the same person who was with me when I quit my job in Oregon at Subway, he actually came to live with me in Michigan for a while. So but that was another reason why I didn't want to go straight back to Houston, because he already came there. So it was like, it's more than just me in this situation. So I decided to stick it out in Michigan, but eventually I did quit my job there. With, of course, a pretty significant investment in crypto and in the stock market. I don't know exactly what it is. I want to say around, I had maybe a $7,000 portfolio by that time in 2022. And yeah, I was getting ready to move back to Houston, but I decided to take a little detour. I took a trip to Mexico to see a friend that I had met in Houston. So I spent about 10 days. Sorry, I'd gotten a random spam call out of nowhere. But what I was saying is that oh no, it's just. All right, sorry, I'd just gotten a spam call there. But what I was saying is that at this point, I had made some money. My portfolio was around 7,000 in 2022. Of course, I'd spent a lot of the money that I had before on that rental property, but I was able to start building my portfolio back up. And I had a lot more crypto at this time as well. It was not just stock market holdings that I had at this point. So the summer was coming to an end. I put in my 2 weeks at that job in Michigan and basically said bye to everyone. And then I took a little trip to Mexico for 10 days and came back to Houston after that. So I got an apartment. This was one that was actually in my name. It was not just like a roommate situation where I was just paying someone a certain amount a month to live there. This was my own apartment with a roommate that I had found. And yeah, I started working at a restaurant bartending, and I was making probably pretty similar money to what I was before. And my expenses are pretty similar to what they were before in Houston. So I was again investing about $2,500 a month. And if you remember, 2022, the stock market kind of continued to struggle. And I was continuing to buy crypto, continuing to buy the S&P 500. And in 2023, things kind of turned around for the stock market. Everything was kind of going up. I had a stable income. I was investing consistently. And this is where my net worth really went crazy, because if you remember in 2023, crypto did pretty well that whole year. I mean, it was up and down. It was volatile. It does what crypto does. But if you had been investing from kind of the time that I was, like through that those 6 months, the last 6 months of 2022, crypto was very low. I was able to buy things at a really good price. And I was also able to buy the S&P 500 at a pretty good price. And I had consistent money, so I was continuing to invest in the stock market. So this is where my stock market portfolio really went crazy. I'd pretty much stayed at that job for all of 2023, and I think for most of 2024 as well. So in 2024, I decided to sell my crypto. And if you know what happens in 2024, crypto went way up in that year. So I was up about 80% when I sold. I thought that I'd done great. I invested $13,000 and I sold everything for $23,000. I made $10,000 on my crypto. I did. To me, that was incredible. But of course, crypto went up way more after that. So I did sell at the wrong time. But I was basically able to put that whole $23,000 into the stock market. And of course, I'd been investing before that. So my holdings in the stock market were just going up and up at this point. And at about, let's see, in 2024, I think around June, I was interested in buying another rental property. I'd basically got my portfolio up to about 80,000 from this point, and I was looking to buy another rental property. And some things did change. I think in the beginning of 2023, in the beginning of 2024, I started a new job at a gay bar. It wasn't all that it was really cracked up to be. I was kind of making similar money to what I was at the restaurant. So I had 2 jobs, but I was making about the same as I was just working that one job full time. So not really anything too significant in terms of my income or living expenses changed during this time. So I was still able to put a lot of money away into the stock market. Now, around, I think, Father's Day of 2024, I'd quit that restaurant job that I had started when I had moved to Houston. It was essentially just bought out by another restaurant group, and they changed a lot of things in the restaurant. They were fucking up the money pretty much. So they changed the tip out. They changed just the way that a lot of things worked, and I wasn't making as much money as I was before. So I quit that job, and I was just at the gay bar at this time. So I did have lots of time to look at houses, and I eventually found one that I thought would make for a pretty good rental property. So I bought it. I bought it for around $80,000. And I was telling my realtor at this time, like, hey, I don't know how the mortgage is going to work just because I don't have much money coming in. I was able to get a DSCR loan on the property, which is basically just they loan you money based on the expected rent of the property, not necessarily on your income, credit, any of that. So I was able to get that loan, and I was able to buy the property. And again, I put pretty much everything I had into this property, and I was starting from zero again. But this time I was going to change careers. My real estate agent had told me, hey, you should go ahead and become a home inspector. So I looked into it, and yeah, owning a home inspection business, you can make pretty good money. It's definitely possible to do $250,000 a year in revenue, just as your own home inspector, just like a one-person show essentially. And there's a lot of costs that go into that, of course, marketing, insurance, the car expenses. There's a lot that comes out of that, $250,000 a year, and that's being pretty generous. That's assuming that basically 5 days a week you have a very full schedule for all 5 of those days. So, it's you can see that there's a possibility to make a lot of money in this field. So I thought that it would be a good idea to purchase the course and start learning home inspections. And I was actually able to get a job working as a home inspector, even though I didn't have my license yet. So I was still able to do different types of inspections. And this was in, I think, September of 2024. So again, I basically and I quit that bartending job at that time as well. So again, I was in a situation where I just spent all my money on a rental property, and I was in a new job. And of course, with the new job, you have to get trained. There's a little bit of a time before you start really making the money that you want to be making. So I was not able to invest in the stock market for a long time. I've been out of the stock market after I sold everything in maybe August. I haven't been able to get back in since until probably April of this year. Now, I got pretty lucky because in April, there was Liberation Day. Stock market dropped like crazy, and I was able to start buying at that time, and the last 3 months have just been insane in the stock market. That's why I'm up 16% in 3 months, is because the returns have just been crazy in the last 3 months. So as you can see, my income, it's pretty similar actually. Working as a home inspector, it's pretty similar to what it was as a bartender. So, I think for a while I was putting money into my rental property and things like that, but I got to a point where I could start investing again. So that's essentially how we've gotten here. It's been a long journey. I moved across the country many times, had many different jobs. But overall, I think when I sold to buy the rental property, I think I was up around 10,000 on my crypto. I think I was up around 10,000 on my stock market portfolio. And I think when I bought the first rental property, I was also up about 10,000. So in total, I've had like a realized gain of about 30,000 from investments. Because of course, I started doing this in 2019, so I've been part of the stock market in a time where the performance has been very good. The stock market has roughly doubled in that time, and I've been able to live very frugally, save a lot of money, and just invest a whole lot into the stock market. So that's pretty much the story of how I went from that $34,000 portfolio to the $15,000 portfolio I have today. And of course, after having some experience in crypto, that kind of made me feel a little more confident on this most recent time when Ethereum was low to actually buy in. And of course, you can see I'm up now, but long term, I kind of want to get back to where I was before, just have all my money in VOO, and then just buy more real estate. That's kind of the plan right now. The thing I like about real estate and why I decided to start buying into that is it's not because real estate is just a great asset. It's more so due to the tax benefits. You can kind of defer some of the taxes that you have on capital gains. There's the 1031 exchange, so you can basically sell a property and you don't have to pay the property taxes. You can actually put that money into another property and you pay the property taxes when you sell that property. And you can also just refinance your debt. You can basically get a cash out refinance to pull out some of the equity that you have in a property. And that's not a taxable event because you didn't actually realize any gains. You didn't sell anything. And there's also depreciation. I mean, I'm not going to go into it, but the idea is that, yes, real estate has lots of tax benefits. So as I do become a higher earner, which is the goal right now, and to eventually have my own business, real estate I'm basically going to be able to use to offset some of my taxes. And also it's nice to be able to get an interest rate and to kind of lock that in. On a 30-year mortgage, your interest rate does not change. So for example, if interest rates drop, I can take advantage of that. I can refinance and get a lower interest rate locked in for a while, which, there's not really those types of lending products for the stock market. And of course, there's not those types of tax benefits on the stock market. And with a home, you can put in work to it, you can remodel it, and you can actually increase the value without the market going up. So those are kind of the three main things that I like about real estate and why I've invested such a significant amount of my money into real estate. But for the next little while here, I think I just want to focus on the stock market. I think next property I buy, I don't want to put myself into a situation where I have nothing left. I want to put basically some money into the next property, but still have a significant holding in the stock market. So that's kind of my plan right now. Yeah, I didn't end up starting that whole meal prep business. I kind of got sucked into the restaurant industry, going out, having a good time, doing all that. So yeah, I didn't really ever get to that starting a business point, but now, 4 years later, I think I'm on a path where I'm learning a lot about home inspections, and I think I will be able to start a business in maybe the next few years. And of course, I've grown my net worth a lot during that time. I've been smart with my money. I haven't spent a ton of it. And I've been making pretty good money. So it kind of all worked out. Me moving to Houston, my whole kind of plan that I had back then, it all did kind of work out. So I'm not going to say that it's easy. There was a lot of struggles in doing this and moving across the country, but if you're someone who isn't interested in going to college, I will just say there are other options. Okay? You don't have to be scared that, I don't know, you're going to be homeless or your life isn't going to work out because you're not following the traditional path. There are other options to be able to achieve financial success without just being on the traditional path. So hopefully I can kind of be an example to people of you can still go out, move across the country, be who you want to be, do what you want to do. And if you're smart with your money, you can still make it work financially. So that's definitely one thing that I want people to take away from this. And then, of course, I did pretty well on my stock market investments, but the crypto, that could have easily blown up in my face. It could have gone to zero, honestly. I'm not a long-term believer in Bitcoin or Ethereum. I think cryptocurrency it is important. I think the blockchain will probably be a technology that's used in the future, and who knows, maybe we will switch to a cryptocurrency world. But I just don't think Bitcoin or Ethereum are necessarily going to be those cryptocurrencies. So that's kind of how I feel about crypto. I got lucky. I've made money so far. It's kind of like last time when I had those shares of AMD. It's just something I did with an amount of money I was willing to lose. And yes, I made money on it, but my long-term investments are still the same. It's still VOO. Of course, now I do have the real estate and the rental properties, so that's kind of another avenue where I can invest my money as well. So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what's happened. That's pretty much my story with the personal finance side of how I was able to invest and kind of how my investments have performed through this time. I don't think I'm going to be uploading on this channel regularly. I just wanted to come back and make this video. I was watching some of those old videos, and I wanted to follow up and kind of show what's happened since then and how everything's been working. But yeah, don't necessarily expect regular videos on this channel. I might come through and talk about some like finance stuff, some real estate stuff on here, but it's not going to be consistent. Don't expect me to start making high quality videos or anything. But yeah, that's my story of how my net worth went to from 34,000 to 175 in about 4 years. And it's really nothing different than what I was doing before, kind of just investing in the stock market. Of course, I did have some other types of investments that I've been investing in as well, but just staying consistent with investing and living below my means, trying to go for like higher income jobs, trying to always increase my income, increase my skills, has made me pretty successful. And honestly, I don't even feel like I've worked that hard for this. Like, yes, I've had to go through a lot of struggle, but it's not like I'm working like 60 hours a week. Like all these bartending jobs, I've been able to make decent money, like $35 an hour with tips and everything. That's probably what it averages out to. And that's about what I'm doing as a home inspector too. So just know if you're willing to work and you're willing to learn some new skills, there are jobs out there where you can make $60,000-$70,000 a year without having to go to college. It's doable. I've done it. It's not easy, but it is certainly possible. And it is possible to live frugally for a long period of time. I don't feel like I'm necessarily depriving myself of anything. Sure, I don't live in the nicest neighborhood. I don't drive the nicest car. I don't go out and spend tons of money. I do go to restaurants and things like that occasionally. I don't feel like I'm depriving myself, but yeah, I don't live a lavish lifestyle. I live pretty frugally, pretty much below my means, and I try to work 40 hours a week. I try to focus on jobs and ways that I can kind of increase my income instead of trying to just put more hours in. I try to kind of focus on, okay, what certifications, what degrees, or what licenses can I get to increase my income. And that's kind of just how I've been doing things for the last 4 years. And as you can see, it's worked out pretty good for me. So yeah, that's all I got to say.